be presenting the very first Heels on Wheels Women's Automotive Conference.
We are the Sisters of Danville Toyota. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Teresa, and together we run the day-to-day operations of the dealership.
Working in the automotive industry, we've had women express to us the discomfort they have going into a dealership, whether purchasing a vehicle or coming in to have a car serviced.
At Danville Toyota, we're close to 40% female employees, but we want you to be able to feel comfortable going anywhere and purchasing a vehicle anywhere you go or having it serviced. So we're going to provide you with some tools today to make that happen.
So today we have a strong lineup of female speakers for you. We're going to cover everything from purchasing tips to a segment on self-defense.
And we want to start by just thanking everybody for coming out. We want to thank all of our speakers that are here and all of the ladies that have been here and helping us put this together.
We invite you to enjoy lunch, and we'll have a reel of bloopers you can laugh at in the course of your meal. Thank you.
Now we're ready to get started. So I feel like that was a perfect segue into our first keynote speaker today is Kristen Barber. She is the Executive Director for the Center of Pediatric Therapies and an entrepreneur.
Can everyone hear me okay? I actually speak pretty loudly, so typically I don't even need the microphone, but if you cannot hear me, just raise your hand. First, I would like to thank Teresa Wiseman. I think this is an exciting and a special opportunity to celebrate women and leadership, and I'd like to give her a round of applause. So, by background, I'm an occupational therapist. I'm a graduate of the Medical College of Virginia with a degree in occupational therapy. And in 2001, I established a private practice specifically for children with disabilities, focusing on physical, speech, and occupational therapy. And quite often I get a question about, how did you become a practice owner? How did you venture from being a clinician into becoming an entrepreneur? So instead of just standing up here today and just telling you all about my story, I really wanted to tie it into principles that I feel like that you can take and apply. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're applying it to become an entrepreneur for your primary practice. Quite often people have side hustles. How many people in here have like a side hustle? Like you're selling direct sales, you may be teaching part-time. For those of you that aren't familiar with that terminology, I said it's 2018 about those that are venturing outside of their primary occupations to pursue other avenues. So these same principles can be applied to that as well. So in talking about my story, the first thing that I identified was, really what were my strengths? What talents did I have? What skill sets did I have? And were these above average? Was there something that were marketable? Was it something that I could offer that there was a service or a resource that was not being offered in the community? And for me, as an occupational therapist, I graduated, this is going to date me just a little bit, but I graduated in December of 1996, and I had a stipend with the Danville Regional Memorial Hospital, and I returned to work for them for a period of 2 years. And in that time, I really had this expectation that I was going to arrive, and I was going to be mentored, and I was going to learn, and they were going to gradually, introduce me to the patients. And I arrived, and on the first day, the therapist looked at me, and she handed me a clipboard and a lab coat and said, "Thank God you're here." And I said, "Oh no." She said, "Come with me to the floor." And so what I had to do, because census was so high and training was really not available, just because we were just trying to meet the caseload and the demands of our patients, I really started sending myself all over the country to every continuing ed course I could find, specialty certifications in adult neuro and orthopedic hand therapy and pediatrics. And I really started to develop my specific skill set. And so in doing so, moving on to the next slide, I was able to identify an opportunity. I really wanted to provide pediatric therapy services. And at that particular time, really the only pediatric therapy services that were available were through the hospital. And really at the hospital, they were kind of low down on the totem pole. Just in the fact that if census was high in the hospital or if there was more of a demand in skilled nursing or outpatient, they would often pull from the pediatric staff to cover the demand. So we had therapists that were traveling to the schools to provide services in the schools because with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that requires that if a child is unable to perform in their educational setting to the best of their ability without a service like physical or speech occupational therapy, the educational setting is required to provide that. So that in our area at that particular time, the schools were contracting with the hospital for those services. So I knew that in our area, we are surrounded by UNC Chapel Hill, we have Duke, we have Lake Forest, we have Children's Hospital Richmond, we have UVA. We have these large health organizations that our families in our area were having to travel to for their specialty services. So if they needed to see, their child needed to see an orthopedist or a neurologist, their developmental pediatricians were often located in these larger areas. But the disconnect was they were referred for their follow-up physical, speech, or occupational therapy, and there really were no services in our community. So unless you were a family that could travel out of town and pursue those services somewhere like Duke or one of the other institutions, you really were not able to get the services for your children. So I knew that this was a service, a resource that was not available in our area. So when I was looking at, well, is this opportunity going to be right? Some things I had to consider would have been timing, the value, the sustainability, and the marketability. So when considering timing, value, opportunity, sustainability of that opportunity, I had to identify the experts who were already providing services similar to what I would like to have provided, similar to what I wanted to provide in our area, who were providing services maybe in some of the surrounding areas. So I identified some of these individuals. Some of them lived in neighboring cities. Some of my former classmates from school were providing these outpatient services in their states. And so I just started picking their brains. I felt like you're already doing it, you've already got the information, I started picking their brains. So seeking out the advice of the experts around you is really key to being prepared for stepping out and venturing into your opportunity. And like I say, there's no need to reinvent the wheel, right? It works pretty well. Occasionally we may need to enhance it, but reinventing the wheel of someone that's already put their time and expertise into it, that's a waste of your time. So really picking the brains of those that have been successful, they're already doing it, that really works to your advantage. So in looking at, okay, now I know that I have a strength, I have a skill set. I am training other staff members because I've sent myself all over the country to further my education. And I know that I have this skill set that apparently is needed in our community. There's an opportunity because no one else is really doing it. So then I had to think about what are the resources? What is it that I would need in order to be able to provide this service? And there was a Fortune 500 CEO that was speaking, and I can't remember his name, but basically he was giving a speech about success. And he says that too often, specifically like when we are in class or we're in school or we're in business management courses, we're told to focus on our weaknesses, really focus on the areas that you're weak in and build up those skills. He says the opposite. He says focus on your strengths, stay in your lane, and then identify those that have the strengths in the areas that you are weak, and pull your resources in. So for me, my resource ended up being Tommy Mathena. He owns Danville Orthopedic Athletic Rehab, and I knew that he already had a well-established organization, an organization that, would be able to bill, already had the third-party certifications in place, Medicaid, Medicare numbers, and billing was not my strength. Clinical services were my strength. His strengths were administration. So identifying a resource and linking into someone that had strengths in areas that I was not as strong. So the next step would be, do you decide to engage in the risk? And I really like this slide. It says you'll always miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And that's from Wayne Gretzky. So, now granted, at this particular time, I was still pretty young. And it's just like when you compare the 5-year-old that's standing on the mountain to go down the ski slope compared to the 30-year-old that's standing on the mountain getting ready to go down the ski slope. The 5-year-old's just really excited. It looks like a great opportunity. He can't wait to go fast, feel with that, feel the wind in his hair and see how fast he can go. And the 30-year-old is thinking, you know what, I could really break a leg. So for me, at that particular time, I have to recognize that I was young. I didn't have a family at that particular time. I didn't have some of the risk that, leaving my position as a staff clinician at a hospital, specifically in a community like Danville, or South Boston. This time I was working in South Boston, where, we traditionally, individuals did not leave large health organizations or large industries. We had Dan River, we had our tobacco industry, we had the hospital. People basically, when they began their employment, they retired there. So my mother, being an RN for 30 plus years at that particular time at the hospital, it was just really difficult for her to understand that I was going to leave a really good, stable paying job to go and engage in this risk. But I think for me, having youth on my side, somewhat to naivete, I was kind of like the 5-year-old. I wasn't thinking about breaking my leg and everything that, bad could happen. I was thinking of all the good things that could happen. So I would say that definitely had, its influence on me. But certainly we have to weigh those risks, and we have to decide, whether or not we want to engage, because, the courage to engage in the risk, it separates those that want to do versus those that do. So, let's talk about women in business. I think this is a very exciting time for women in leadership and those that are looking to venture into business. I wanted to pull some statistics, and these were from 2017. And according to the National Association of Women Business Owners, women-owned firms, 51% or more, account for 39% of all privately held firms and contribute 8% of employment and 4.2% of revenues. And moving to the next slide, why would women have advantages in business? Well, if you become a certified women's business enterprise, it provides for opportunities. What people often do not know is that the federal government actually sets aside 5% of their federal contracting dollars to go towards women-owned businesses. Now, granted, quite often those dollars don't get spent because we do not have enough women applying for these contracts. But if you are an agency that is bidding for a contract with the federal government in one of these areas that they've set aside this funding for, and then you're going up against a business that is predominantly male, you actually have an advantage over that other business. Corporations that do business with women-owned businesses often receive tax incentives because they are demonstrating that they've implemented a program of diversity. So now more than ever, there are opportunities that the federal government is setting aside, and then including these tax incentives. Corporations are looking for women-owned businesses. I have found my husband has a packaging business, and he has said that specifically in his industry, they can't spend enough of their dollars set aside for women-owned businesses. There's not enough in the marketplace for suppliers or a company to pull from. So it's really interesting information. Women are great leaders, and what's really exciting is that we have the data to prove it. So there was a study in 2012 by Zenger Folkman for the Harvard Business Review, and then it was recently updated, and he shared it on the Facebook page, or the website page for CNBC Make It in December of 2017. And so he was a psychometrician. He is a psychologist, basically, that deals with, has a specialty in computer science and statistics. And he designed a tool to measure leadership effectiveness. The firm notes that although more women have been entering the U.S. workforce and contributing growth to the nation's GDP, women still remain an untapped resource. And why is that? Well, if you look at the data on the next slide, in the areas of initiative, drives for results, practices self-development, displays high integrity and honesty, develops others, inspires and motivates others to high performance, builds relationships, champions change, establishes stretch goals, collaboration and teamwork, connects the group to the outside world, solves problems and analyzes issues, communicates powerfully and prolifically, and then at the bottom, innovates for technical or professional expertise and develops strategic perspective. 13 out of 16 of these women ranked higher than men. I think that's I think that's pretty exciting. Only time for innovation. And when looking at women and why women make great leaders, we have a lot of qualities as females that really can be utilized in the workforce. We are nurturing. We understand work-life balance. If you are in management, especially for me, most pediatric therapists are female. I have to understand work-life balance because most of my female staff are mothers. And for that, I allow for flexibility in the workforce, which is going to help with retention and overall job satisfaction. Women understand emotions and how they relate to one another. So if I'm picking up on emotions, maybe with a particular staff member, I may somewhat modify my approach to that person based on their emotional state, where specifically in the data, men don't really pick up on that as well. I'm sure we're not surprised by that, right? They're kind of just trudging forward, and if they do pick up on an emotion, quite often they just don't understand it. Women are multitaskers, right? So many of us are moms, or we have other roles. I teach fitness classes. I'm the president of the board of the directors of the Danville Museum. I'm on the Danville Concert Association's board. I have these lots of hats that I'm wearing, and I quite often have to multitask. Moms have to do that. I'm not a mom, but my sisters are, and I have to witness, all that they have to manage, and that translates into the workforce. Women are fueled by challenge. When I went up against the hospital to bid for the therapy services that they had for, I don't even know how many years at that point, and I actually won. I got the bid, and the services moved away from Danville Regional to myself. My previous boss called their special education director and said, "She's an excellent therapist. She'll never be able to do this on her own." She shared it with me. And you know what? I said, "Thank you." Because that's all I needed to hear. Once I heard I couldn't do it, I knew I would do it. I knew I would be successful. So that translates to the workforce. We like challenges, and we usually step up to the game. Women handle crisis situations actually better than men. Who do your children run to when they're hurting? It's mommy. They never run to daddy, they run to mommy. We handle crisis situations, and the data shows that. What I want to, I think, stress as I'm closing is that, moving on, is that we need to embrace our female qualities. We have qualities that are useful and superior at times, according to the data, to our male counterparts. And I heard a quote from Dr. Doris Day. If anybody knows who she is, she's like a celebrity dermatologist. She's in New York. She is on the Doctor's Channel on Sirius. She's written books. She's the expert in the field. And she was being interviewed, and I really liked what she said. She said that her father, who was a surgeon, when she was graduating and she was getting ready to go into residency, he said, do not compromise what is great about you being a female. He said too often when he's been in surgery or he's witnessed some of his residents and even some of the nurses that are working in a predominantly male environment, they start to change their behavior. They start to act more masculine. He said, you don't have to be like a man to fit into the business world. And that, to me, I thought was pretty profound. I think that we need to embrace what we have, that it makes us unique, makes us strong, and makes us the female leaders that we are. So, throughout history, women have been stepping up to the challenges. Women have had to fill these shoes, specifically with World War II, when all of our men were overseas. Who kept the country running? It was the women. So thank you so much for today. I'm excited that we're celebrating women empowerment, and I wish you success in all that you do.
Getting a flat tire can happen to any of us.
So with that being said, we're going to show you the simple steps of how to change a tire. Before you begin, make sure your vehicle is in park with the ignition off. Your next step is going to be that you're going to pop open the trunk and you're going to get your bag out. This bag you've all been given today. What you're going to want to make sure that you have in it is going to be a pair of tennis shoes in the event that you're wearing heels or open toes, and also a pair of pants just in case you're wearing a skirt. In addition, you're going to want to have a towel for padding and cleanup and a flashlight.
The next step is going to be locating your tools and spare tire.
It's important to reference your owner's manual ahead of time to find the location of these items. You're going to want to be as safe as possible. So with that being said, make sure that the emergency brake is on, you've turned your hazard lights on, and you have also secured the wheel of the vehicle. Using the lug nut wrench, loosen the lug nuts without removing them. Do this in a star pattern. You may even have to use your body weight to get them loose.
Consult your driver's manual to ensure the correct positioning of the car jack for tire removal. The jack should be sitting on a flat, stable surface.
Place the towel down for protection for your knees. Using the car jack, slowly lift the car until the flat tire is between 2 and 3 inches off the ground. Here's a safety note. You should never be underneath the vehicle when it's raised on a jack.
Using the lug nut wrench, completely remove the loose lug nuts. Remove the flat tire. Place the new spare tire on the car. Replace the lug nuts and tighten them by hand just enough to secure the tire.
Remove the car jack until the tread of the new tire just meets the ground. Finish tightening the lug nuts until they're secure, then fully lower the car jack. So now that we're done changing the tire, this is only a temporary solution. Come on by Danville Toyota and we'll either replace or repair your tire.
We service all makes and models.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about what's under your hood. Refer to your owner's manual on the proper way to open up your hood. Every vehicle is different. You're going to want to check your washer fluid, your coolant, your brake fluid, and your oil. When checking the oil, make sure that you wipe it first. This gets rid of all of the residual oil that could be on the dipstick. Second, pull it back out again, and this will show you the reading of your oil. You want to make sure it's light in color and it's also in between these two marks. All makes and models have different maintenance intervals, so you're going to want to refer to your maintenance guide or your owner's manual to find out what your schedule is. We're going to go into more detail on your maintenance later on during the event.
Hi everybody, my name is Gina Belcher and I recently started working at Danville Toyota May 22nd of this year. I have been in healthcare for 18 years, so this was a total leap for me. I'll be 42 this month, and I have no children. I'm married, and I decided to take a leap into the automotive field. Danville Toyota has been very empowering for me as a female in the business. And just this event, I'm really excited about it. I've done healthcare marketing and sales, and we've done all kinds of events, but this one's really special. So I think it's great for women to get together and empower each other and build off each other. So at Danville Toyota, we do have, we've got some excellent guys working with us too. We do love them, but we do have our girls, and it's a great work environment for us. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today, where's Josh? Some of the things we're talking about today is your lights on your vehicle. So you've ever been driving down a country road and all of a sudden you look and there's this light flashing and you're petrified. So just kind of going over some of the dashboard indicator lights today. They're all the lights are on warning, so you do want to pay attention to them and not try to cut them off and not go back. On the anti-lock brake, if you've ever seen, anyone ever seen this come up on their dashboard? Yeah, you're like, what is it, ABS? I'm not sure. So that's your analog brake system. There's some sort of malfunction that's occurring and your car has detected it. So you want to make sure you get into a shop. It could be low brake fluid, any kind of circumstance, you want to get into the shop and get it checked out. So bring it by the seats. The battery charging. This one could be a couple different things. Your battery's low, could be your alternator belt. You want to get this one checked out too, because if the battery goes out, you're done, right? So you're on the side of the road. So yeah, get that checked immediately. Oil pressure warning. Seen this one? Has anyone seen this one? This light also comes on most of the vehicles now if you are need an oil change. Everybody sees that flash, and then you might want to cut it off for a minute because you're on the way to the dealership. You just haven't gotten your oil changed. But anyway, keep an eye on this because your oil levels could be low. That could mess your engine up. Maintenance required. So we need to check everything in your vehicle to make sure. You want to bring it to a certified mechanic, have them check your car over, make sure all your belts, hoses, and everything has been maintained. The tire monitor pressure. I had this happen to me recently. So the tire pressure monitoring system, all of a sudden this thing comes on, this light, and I have no idea what it is. So I have to pull my manual out. And then it's my air pressure. So this is a great indicator something's going on with your tires. If you're not feeling that already on the road, then you want to pull over and get someone to check your tires. You can check does anyone keep a tire pressure gauge with them? Yeah. That's a good thing to do, and you know your levels, and you check your air, make sure you're okay, and get to maintenance for that. Airbag fault indicates a malfunction in the supplemental restraint system, the front passenger occupant classification system, or the seatbelt pretension system. Professional diagnostics and/or repair of the SRS is highly recommended. So when you see a light about your airbag, it's not working. So you want to get that checked out immediately because that puts you in an unsafe situation. Right? Coolant temperature warning. I've seen this in the older cars. If you go back and I think about it when I was younger, and you look down and you see a coolant temperature, and that's usually in your older model cars, your car is overheating. So your levels are high. You definitely want to get that into the shop immediately. That can definitely, you can have water that's too low. I mean, your fluid levels are too low. You need to get all those checked out. Check engine light. that can go for a variety of things, right? It indicates that the onboard diagnostic system has detected emissions fault, which usually requires professional scan tool to diagnose. There are multiple reasons for your check engine, and it may be triggered. Normally there is no immediate need for panic, so that's a good sign. If the check engine light is flashing, this can be damaging to the catalyst system. You must get to the repair shop immediately. So if you're seeing the sign, you want to get there, but if you're seeing it flashing, I would get there quick. Okay. Any questions? And I apologize, I'm new at this. I'm nervous at speaking, so thank y'all for bearing with me through that. Okay, thanks.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now? How about now? Okay. My name is Janie Engelharif. I am super excited to be here this afternoon. I do want to, before anything, I want to thank Teresa Weissman and Tracy Weissman's Care for putting this event together. I don't think any other dealership has done this before. It is very important, especially to recognize them as well. They have worked extremely hard, even, to include us in all of this. So please, help me to welcome with So just like Gina said, I'm also new to Toyota, extremely new. But I have had the privilege to work with the service department, some, and then, kind of doing other things. But for right now, I've been working mostly with the customer service, and so that puts me working very closely with the service department. So my presentation today will be mostly about servicing your car, which is a great follow-up from Gina. She shows us the lights that usually come on your dashboard and other areas. So I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit about what you need to do about those things, okay? I have worked, of course, with the service department, service manager, our technicians. In the month of June, we have serviced 1,191 cars, just for the month of June. Toyota has serviced 1,191 cars. Does not necessarily mean just all lights. It can be, just inspections. It can be all kinds of things. But I thought it was very interesting that we see, think about it, over 1,000 cars in just 1 month is extremely wonderful. So, it is believed that the second most important investment in your life is what? Your car. That's right. It's a car. And of course that comes with responsibilities as well, just like everything else that we do. So following manuals and schedules that were created by engineers, including female engineers as well, it's definitely the best maintenance that we can do for our cars. Okay, so just a simple manual. It usually comes in every vehicle, mostly in the glove compartment box. And I know that sometimes it's a lot for us to read, but really just to pay attention to it once in a while, it's very, very important. An average person drives around 20,000 miles. An average person drives that around 20,000 miles, and if the car is not maintained once in a while, then it can definitely cause very, very many issues that can be very costly as well. So the following presentation is a checklist, and we'll keep it very basic and brief. And it's definitely easy to follow and can prevent many, many issues. I do have a question for you all. Who likes to have a pedicure and a manicure done once in a while? Very good. So do our cars. Exactly. Not in the same way. Okay. So let's take a look at our presentation. First, tires. When I think of tires, I think like shoes for us females or heels. Like today, most of us are wearing heels. So basically, when we buy a pair of shoes, they're super comfortable, right? At first, maybe. So, 6 months or whatever, and then what happens? They start to wear out. It is the same thing with the tires on your vehicle. So we have to maintain them. We have to change them once in a while. So, yes. So the tires should be rotated every 5,000 miles. Now, it usually depends with different vehicles, but the rule of thumb is that they should be rotated every 5,000 miles. And we also should check the pressure monitors, alignment, etc. When those things are not working together, then that usually wears on the tires even more. Something as simple as forgetting to do this can cause many, many issues. Now, there is, I brought a little prop, and of course this is very small to show you down here, and I'll just have it out when you guys leave. I'd love for you to take a look at this when you can. It shows the very first, of course, all the way to the right, it shows what a good thread is. So that's a very good tire. And they have made it very easy. It shows the color green. So green means good. The middle section, it's like caution. You still have about 10 to 15,000 miles to go. But you definitely want to go ahead and take care of that as soon as possible. Either plan to go ahead and do that. The one all the way to the right, of course, the color red means now. Like you need to change it immediately, because especially the thread becomes very slick. And I just learned about this. I have one of those, so I will change it now, like immediately next week. So the guys in the shop, because I do go into the shop every day, and they were explaining the way that my tire look. It's in between the yellow and the red, okay? So not that bad, it's between. But they were saying, especially if it's raining, I can hydroplane, and that is extremely very, very dangerous to do, okay? All right, so let's do to our next slide. Oil change. Now, the oil change depends for every vehicle, okay? For the oil, you should change it every 5,000 miles. That's usually older model vehicles, and does not necessarily mean Toyota. Toyota, you can do every 10,000 miles, ladies. So all the new Toyota vehicles, usually you will change it every 10,000 miles, so that's good to know. But again, please do check your manual, because every vehicle is completely different. But mostly the new Toyota models, you are changing it every 10,000 miles. So you don't have to bring it to us so often, okay? But again, you don't have to change it. We love for you just to bring it to a shop, and we will take care of it for you. Now, the fluids, of course, the oil and the fluids, there's many different fluids in our vehicles. Every particular fluid has a reason to be there. So when you do take your vehicle to get the oil changed, just ask them to change your fluids, or just to check them, okay? There's a couple of them that are very simple to do ourselves. I just learned this myself last year, and I did it. But you don't have to do it. We will do it for you at Dingbo Toyota. Okay, next slide. Of course, the lights, I think that's one of the very simple things that we can do. I will ask you to check them once in a while, especially when your car is parked and hopefully you're not driving. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. The windshield wipers. Such a very simple piece of equipment. Okay, it has just a little rubber, a blade and a rubber. But once it starts to get wear out, it can kind of smear your windshield. And then, of course, it can also scratch it. And, of course, the windshield wiper blades are much cheaper than a brand new windshield. So, something very simple to do. Again, you don't have to do it. You can bring it at, I'm sorry, Dingbo Toyota, that's right. Now, the next slide. This is the cabin filter. I do have a little prop also. You will see it at the end of the slide. I think on the right-hand side, it shows what a clean filter is. And then, of course, on my left, it shows what a bad or dirty cabin filter is. Now, cabin filter, what is it and what does it do? Well, first of all, it's located in the dashboard. We cannot see it unless you take the dashboard off. But it basically cleans, hang on, let me see. Here we go. It cleans the air. It also filters it, keeping the dust, pollen, and other materials out. Things that we don't want coming in through our ventilation system, and they're not good for our skin. All right, and that's it. So there again, you can see the one on the right, it's a clean filter, and the one on the left is a dirty filter, which means it needs to be changed immediately. Okay. We'll move on to the next slide. Okay, that's just the air filter. Something usually very simple that can be done in the shop as well. It is recommended that you change it frequently, especially if you have long commutes. For those of you that commute, a lot to work. I have a friend that lives in Danville and commutes to Raleigh every single day. She drives 1.5 hours each way. And so she's actually a Toyota owner, and she brings her car many times during the year. So if you do have long commutes, that's something that is actually recommended for you to do frequently. All right, the battery. Who likes to take vacations? No, you're liars. All right, who likes to take vacations? That's much better. And why do we do that? Because we need to recharge our batteries sometimes. We need to get away from our daily routine, so we like to be, stress-free, even if it's for a week, wherever we're going. So we need to recharge our batteries, right? So the same thing with our vehicles. The battery should be checked usually twice a year. That's something that you need to be checking twice a year and see if it needs to be changed. I have a little slide at the end of this slide. This is some great information that I found out as I was kind of putting a little bit more into the presentation. We think that our batteries do worse in the winter months. At least that was my assumption. That was my personal assumption. And as I was speaking with the service manager, he was like, no, that's wrong. He says the batteries take the worst in the heat in the summer months. I did not know that. Did you know that? No? I did not know that, just because it's working even harder to keep up with everything that it's doing. Now, this particular slide I love because it shows us where, I guess we're in the blue, we're not that bad, I guess, but still that's something that you want to check it at least twice a year. Okay? We'll move on to this slide. Regular checkups, we all do it. Personally, we all go to the doctor, we go, to whatever. So the regular checkups, it's also recommended that you do this every once in a while for your vehicle. We said earlier that a person drives around 20,000 miles on average. So it's always good to do regular checkups. This is the best way to maintain your car. Again, please, you don't have to do it. You can bring it too. Very good. Spending a little bit of money now when you come and do your maintenance, that will be something that can save you more in the long run. Okay? But ladies, do not worry about any of this. Items on the list that I just showed you, at Toyota, we are ready to help you with anything that you need. Remember, Toyota is the dealer that makes the difference, just like all of us here today, women making a difference in our city and making a difference in the world. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy everything this afternoon.
It is my pleasure to now introduce, well, actually I should probably start with this part. So if you do ever get stranded, or your vehicle, something happens with your vehicle and you're stuck, you want to know how to defend yourself if you end up in a situation. So it is my pleasure to introduce Corporal Jennifer Wyatt and her husband.
Hello, everybody. I'm Corporal Jennifer Wyatt. I work at the Danville Sheriff's Office. Sorry. This is my husband, Scott Wyatt. He's here to be my dummy to demonstrate. It's always to demonstrate some of the moves. But a little bit about myself. I've been in law enforcement, with the Danville Sheriff's Office for 3 years now. My background as far as self-defense and tactics go. I was in the Marine Corps. I got out in 2004, so I went overseas during the war. I was a military police officer. Let's see, I did Commodore security, actually, overseas. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I'm a green belt in MAP, which is Marine Corps Martial Arts. I've never actually taught anything in self-defense wise. I am a general instructor at the Police Academy. I just started doing that about a year ago. See, as far as the academy goes, I hate this.
I love that little rag when I do it all the time. Jennifer was the first female to ever get a gold medal in the academy. She got the direct award. She got the gold in power arms. She outside every man, dominated. She got the silver in physical training. She walked out of there with more golds and plaques than anybody has ever done in the academy, male or female.
So being in a predominantly male field, we as women, we have a lot of power. You know, I broke records with that and outshot all these guys. But we're going to begin with some personal safety tips. Let Scott, I know he's just not going to be there. Let him introduce himself.
Scott White, I'm an investigator with the Sheriff's Office. I've been in law enforcement for 20 years. I think I've seen most every violent crime that you can see. And I also signed the U.S. Marshals Task Force, who's after women violent felons. So Jennifer and I tried to come up with this little thing. It's crazy because it would be so much easier to teach us in 8 hours versus 30 minutes. So we're going to try and shorten this up. But we're going to try and show you all some control holds, things to pay attention to.
We're going to focus on if you're, coming from the store, walking, to your car, if you get attacked, we're just going to focus on stuff like that. But first, we're going to talk about personal safety tips. First of all, be aware of your surroundings. Always. If you're out and about by yourself, make eye contact as best you can. If someone's going to attack you and you've made eye contact with them, they're less likely to attack. They're going to try to get the easy targets. Don't make yourself look like a victim. How many of you carry guns concealed? That's a few. That's great. I highly recommend, as a woman, or anybody for that matter, especially this day and time in Danville, we've heard, actually work in the jail, I'm not sure if I mentioned that. So I'm not out there on the road, but I see a lot in the jail. We are a maximum security facility, so we have from people who haven't paid their child support all the way up to violent murderers. We have several right now. We have people that have 660 years that are in our Danville jail right now, just waiting to go to prison. So I have to deal with a lot of fights in there. Of course, we have spray and tasers and all that stuff. But a lot of these moves come into play also, being in jail. So gun and purse, definitely. If you don't have your concealed weapons permit, get it. Get a gun, carry it, put it in your purse if you carry a purse. If you're walking, out of Walmart to your car, you could just have your hand right inside that purse on it. Nobody ever even knows that you have it. And if you have to, shoot someone, you never even have to take out. Bullet go right through that purse, I promise. They'll never see it coming. See, always park away from other vehicles. Let's say, I'm just using Walmart as an example. Park away so nobody is directly on either side of you. So that way nobody's crouched down, on the passenger side. Always locking the doors, that's another thing. That way, if you get into something, maybe other people have more of a chance to see you, to see it happening, versus right there in between two other cars. Keep your keys in your hand. Your keys are a great weapon. I think we walk around with them like this if you have to, because that's going to hurt if you have to use that. If you're ever in a situation, people usually yell help. Don't yell help. Either yell rape or fire, because that's what people pay more attention to, in our opinion. We were talking about this last night. As far as personal safety tips. Does anybody have any questions of personal safety tips? Being aware of your surroundings. That's exactly right. That street light. Park as close to it as you can, and if you have to walk further, that's okay.
And if out in the parking lot, give them a minute to get out of the way if you don't feel safe.
Or if you get that feeling, we have that women's instinct. If you get a bad feeling or you get paranoid, hit that alarm on your car. That'll make them think twice. You know, just simple things like that, whatever you can think of. Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, for women that may be nervous to carry, what are recommendations for their initial birth? Smaller, more cosmetics, semi-automatic, what do you recommend?
I would say something very small that can be easily, concealable, like a little 9mm or even a 40 that's subcompact. It just depends, but you can go anywhere around. I usually go to, what's that, the new gun store right now, Shooters? It's a new store that just opened up. It's, I think he's retired law enforcement. He's very helpful. And also, if you've never shot before, get with somebody in the class. I don't do it, but I would love to teach that. Showing women gun safety, how to take them apart, clean them, and shoot. Women are actually great at shooting. Just a lot of women just never have done it, or they're scared. Like my mom, she's very nervous about guns. She doesn't want to carry. She's just, paranoid about that. Well, I'm available if you need me as far as, I could actually leave my number, but as far as around here, it's not a lot offered right now, so.
I have a weapon, but I've never shot because I'm comfortable going with it. And I wasn't sure that there was actually gun ranges in this area that go to
Well, they have a Cedar Hill, but I don't think they actually teach.
Yeah, they don't teach. They're gun ranges, but you need someone to teach you. So you'll be extremely comfortable with it. That's right.
Sometimes it's better for women to teach women, because
Well, I seriously, my daughter said she's talking to me. Would you be interested in doing a small class?
oh, I definitely would.
Okay. All right, I'll get some information.
Yes, ma'am, I definitely would. I have no problem with that. We actually have a range we go to, our law enforcement range, where you can practice. You can't practice enough. Anybody else have any? Oh, go ahead. You.
I have a question. With the concealed carry permit, you have your gun, you have it in your purse, you get to a building, and that particular business says no weapons allowed. I'm very reluctant to even try carrying it sometimes because then I need to go back to my car, lock it up, do something. How much liability is there if you go in that building with that gun?
There's really no few buildings, the federal buildings.
Schools, post offices.
Exactly. And then you may end up with something like Buffalo Wild Wings. They don't want you to carry a phone, so we don't even go there.
Yeah, we avoid those places, but I carry everywhere. I'm not right now because of our demonstrations we're about to do. I didn't want you guys to feel uncomfortable. That's the only reason I don't have one right now.
But it's not a lot of places. Any shopping, Walmart, food lines, places like it, you can definitely carry weapons. And even if you don't have a concealed carry permit, it's perfectly legal to carry your weapon.
Open carry.
Open carry. Just do it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, the spray, that's another thing we were going to actually talk about. Yes, you can get that at the police supply stores, you can get it in any gun store, but one thing about spray I'm against is that when your adrenaline is pumping and you've just been sprayed, I see it all the time, I've sprayed so many people in the jail that I can't count with them fighting. When that adrenaline's pumping, it does not faze them. It doesn't faze them until they are calm, until however many minutes it takes. But it is absolutely ineffective. On certain people, like I've been sprayed, and we did a whole course. He's been sprayed. I've been sprayed with the highest concentrated pepper spray in the world. That was in the Marine Corps. And I still did a whole 2-minute obstacle course and fought, while getting beat, You can still do it. So it doesn't really, it'll kind of delay it, but it will not stop anyone. So that's kind of a misconception. But it's better than nothing. If you don't feel comfortable with a gun or you don't have one, then by all means you can use that spray. But most people it's not going to affect, especially men whose adrenaline's pumping and they're ready to go. So that's just my opinion. What did you say? Any more questions before we get on to the moves? Now the taser, we carry those, but as far as I don't think.
I think taser.
Oh, like stun guns? Is that what you're talking about?
Taser actually makes a civilian model where you shoot them, like the ones we use, 50,000 volts.
We had to get shot by them. They work. They work.
They hurt really bad. They
Yes.
shut down the nervous system a lot.
They work.
It hurts incredibly bad. The taser comes with a civilian model. I think it's about $800,000. But if you have to deploy that taser on somebody and you call the police, the taser will replace it for free. However, they have to have a police report on it. They're designed when you shoot them, you throw them, they walk on a minute. That is wrong. 5 seconds.
Yeah, 5 seconds still.
But these people are trying to hurt us. We don't care about that. And that sounds mean, but it's true. No more things. So they are true.
But you can get the ones like Flea did, the stun guns, and he can tell you from personal experience. They hurt. Because I got him one day and it burnt him through, he had on 2 or 3 layers of clothes and a heavy coat. So they work. But they only work for that split second. Once it's off, it's kind of like, just like the taser, when we get tased, they hit you in the back, you drop. But after those few seconds are over, you're completely back to being able to fight. Like the ones in the jail, they come in and they're so messed up on hardcore drugs that they don't have a lot of feeling. They're really hard to deal with. As far as tasing them, half the time that doesn't work as good because they're under that influence of heroin, all kinds of drugs. We had to fight one a couple months ago, and it was like 6 of us, and he never felt anything. Even if you break their bones, it was bad. And it's because of those drugs, but I'm getting off track. Any other questions before we go on? We have like 5 actual moves we're going to show you. That works, but you got to think you're carrying this big old camera. Oh yeah, if you're home.
And you can. The thing about spray here
Definitely.
is if you're going to use it, your adrenaline's pumping, you're not sitting here in this conflict environment. Life is really don't matter. You were scared of your life. And now you can spray something. You can only pray to God that you don't spray yourself. And it happens. It's going to happen. I'm a gentleman with my arms where it's at. I know a lot of people are scared. You got to be self-care, but mean world out there. These people, they could care less.
We know how bad Danville's gotten, over the last few years. Gosh, when I was a teenager, it wasn't nearly as much crime. With the gangs, it wasn't nearly this bad. So firearms, we preach that all the time. If you're not comfortable, get comfortable. You can take that online class, I think it's $50, and then you pay $50 to the court, so $100, and you have your concealed weapons permit. So you can carry without anybody ever knowing. And then if not, open carry. That works.
It's actually fun. It is actually fun to go to the range and shoot dinner tonight.
It relieves a lot of stress.
We'll have a good time with this.
All right, so we're going to go into, we have 5 moves that we came up with last night. And this is, I'm sorry. This is more like if you're coming out of a store, you're going to your vehicle, and we're going to demonstrate this right here. If everybody can see right here. First, let's say you're going to your car, someone grabs you from the front. You got to take the thumb is the weakest part of the hand. You can see how big and strong his hand is compared to mine. But when he grabs,
I'm going to grab it.
just go towards the thumb. And that's all you got to do.
Thumb is the weakest part of the hand. We do that. With 2 hands.
2 hands. He's grabbing, he's holding it tight. I'm going to grab my wrist, I'm going to pull up. Just enough to get away from him. And then after you pull up, I mean, it's deadly. And if you go to the throat, let's say that doesn't work, this right here is known as, as you call it, the knockout area. I mean, it's carotid. After you punch, take your elbow, if you can, use your whole body up into it, and it's going to drop it every single time. It's a black box, you're going to see anything like that. Right there, that area right there.
You can strike anybody right through here. I don't care how big they are. This problem.
And your elbow is one of the hardest points of your body. As a woman, we're not going to walk over and engage and fight with them. They're usually bigger and stronger. If they're not bigger, they're always stronger than us. We have to think and use technique. That's wrong.
And these are designed to get away. You're not trying to hang out and
Yeah, you're not.
throw punches with anybody. This is, I want to hurt you, and I want you away from me. And if my hurt makes me kill you, as horrible as that sounds, that's what's going to happen. But I'm not going to do that. She's not going to do that. And even just talking about this today, you got to train doing it. Train with your buddies, your family members. And some of these books are simple. They can truly save your life.
There's another one. You're grab your punch. I got it. That's an easy one, even if they're tall. Take your thumbs and press it. Go as far back as you possibly can. Like Billy said, when you pull out your hands and brains, I mean, really go for it.
It sounds bad, but you don't want to be a victim. You'd rather be theirs than yours.
It's about survival. It's about figuring out. In a lot of these situations, a lot of women have been killed. Yeah, we're not going to go machines. All right, we're going to do the next one is a choke. Let's say they're coming up from behind you. You've been walking and texting on your phone, and you don't even notice because you're not being very vigilant. He comes up behind, because I'm going to tuck my chin and bite. After I bite, we're going to kick. Try to keep the knee to hyperextended and break your foot down their shin and then the elbow. Do whatever you got to do to get away.
Don't worry about the knees. When you drive that foot, straight through.
Go straight through the knee. Straight through the knee and then break down that shin. And there's another area that you can grab onto.
But on the other side, when you do it, you better mean it. This is about living. You won't play it. It's about who's going to die. You for that.
Okay, the front check. Let's say we're coming up to choke you from the front. You can use your legs. You're going to drop down because you know women, we have a lot of power in our legs versus men with their arms. You're going to drop down. When you drop down, you're going to come up and knock away. And after you knock away, elbow, throat, up to the nose, eye gouge. That always hurts. You get it right there, paralyzes the leg, do whatever you have to do. These are just guidelines. You can do whatever you have to do.
You said that again.
Kind of sequence this. Okay, the chuck is from front. You're going to drop down. When you come up, you're going to come up with all of your power. Come up and knock it away. Throat, here, up, eyes, here, here. Until you run away, get up. Because you do not want to get into grappling with a man. You don't want to box with a man. It's not realistic as far as most of us go. We're smaller, we don't have as much upper body strength. More than you can say the front shoe. Let's say you're walking from your car, they're just going to try to rob you. Take your purse. There's one right here. You're going to take your foot and lay it on top of theirs. I'm not even putting much of my body weight at all. Try to do this. And I'm not even putting all my weight on it. Well, what you got right here, and he's going to fall down. Once he falls down, you're doing whatever you have to do to get away. This is all defensive, not offensive.
And I know you're thinking, oh, so nothing's really happening. It's not violent. don't want them to surprise. So if we're gonna sit up here and train, and you know what I'm gonna do, you're able to counter it, you don't have a clue. Nobody knows what's gonna happen, it's all level of surprise. So if you do jump on somebody, and they stomp on your foot and push you, I promise you, you're gone. You're not gonna stand there. When you get back up, absolutely. Hopefully, you're gonna get some distance on it, you're gonna be gone.
And it doesn't look as powerful as right here. Once you want to flip, try to work. And I have little soft shoes, and I'm not even hardly applying any weight. But
And if I lean back trying to pull my foot out, she's already hit me.
But he's leaning back, and I'm pushing, and it's gonna knock him off balance, and if I push hard, he's gonna fall. Let's see. Okay, let's say we hadn't talked anything about if you're out and about with a friend and somebody attacks your friend and is on top of your friend and you're going to try to help her. This is called the blood choke.
And this is somebody's on top of you. You're not trying to live your friend.
Yeah, you're going to try to save her life. You're not going to just run and call for help. You're going to do something right then. Because she could be dead otherwise, or anything could happen. This is called a blood choke. If you apply this properly, it takes 8 seconds before they'll... okay. They can't see. We'll do it on both sides. It takes 8 seconds before they're unconscious. And there's a 50-50 chance that they'll come back from being unconscious at all. Okay. Let me show you how to properly apply this. You're going to take his neck right here, put it right in the fold of your arm. Put right there in the fold of your arm. You're going to grab up here on your arm, get everybody. And you're going to take this hand and put your back. This does not take strength at all. It's merely technique. You're going to pull with this arm. You're going to push with this. It works, and that
It would
was
probably help me out in about 2 seconds. She doesn't even pipe up on me. I feel the arm start to flex and it starts
so it
shutting
takes
down my
about
mind.
1 second.
Okay.
But it takes 8 seconds, and
I work with some good-sized guys, and she has made every one of them happy. They were all like, she's so small, she can make us happy. It was magic.
But it actually, if your arms are small, it actually works better because you get in there perfectly. Like their arms get away when they're trying to the guys in the office were trying to show. Let's show them. Okay, he's on top of your friend or just some woman you're just trying to help. Like right here, in the bend of your arm. Take this hand, grab your upper arm, take this one, put it on the back of his head. This arm's going to be squeezing and this arm's going to be pushing, so it's kind of like pull and push at the same time. And that's barely half a second. But anyway, so you can see that definitely works. If you get home and you want to try it on your husband, by all means. If he taps so fast, it's kind of... Okay, does anybody have any questions about any of the moves? If you want to see them again, because I know it's kind of hard to just the check. Oh, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, we didn't put on this up. Can you see right there, okay? Let's say he's coming up, he's going to grab my purse or try to grab my arm or anything. Step on his foot, try to pull. I'm not even applying that much weight, of course, I'm a lot lighter than that. When you're like this, it just knocks him off balance. And then when he hits, you run. Or hit your car alarm, do whatever you have to do. We're ready for this class. Let's see. All right. Does anybody want to see a duct tape demonstration? I don't know if y'all saw that online where you're duct tape and you get up. Yes. Okay. my hands together and I'm going to show you how to just pump right up.
And I'm not gonna do it long, good.
He's going to give me for that joke.
I think it would fit on the clothing you had on, but I think it would, I could see something.
Did you get it up to? That's really tight because it's a lot of loops. Okay. So you have your arms up like, they're going to go over your head, and when you come down, your elbows need to go out as best you can, if that makes sense. So you're coming up, feet together, elbows out. Wow. And it's just that easy. And the worst part is it just kind of like pulls your skin off.
I think she put about half a roll on me. And I got it on the first one.
It pulled a little bit of skin off. He won't let me lift that down. Well, he's got hair on his arms and I don't, so that. But do you see how easy it was? Just, I mean, I didn't have to hit my legs or anything, it just came right out.
And back in fear setting in, your strength, you'll become incredibly strong. Most people think how weak they'll become. When it happens, you'll be incredibly strong. So it's that right there. It could be right around you 15 times. You'll come out of it.
You'll get quite a flight. And Jerry?
Yeah, you better fight. It's not an option. You don't get a choice. You better fight. Or you'll die. Somebody will read about you in the paper. They telling you kids how wonderful a person you were. And it's,
Do we have time to tell that story? Yes.
it was and some of you may know, she may do. Several years back, I worked for the Denver Police Department, and there was a young lady, 16 years old. Some of her girlfriends got off work, went to Walmart. There was some punk who'd been walking the parking lot for about 3 hours picking his prey. So when she leaves Walmart, he picked her.
This was a gang initiation.
Gang initiation, a bunch of thugs. But this guy, he wasn't that big. He stabbed her, and he stabbed her in her face and throat. Thank God there was a nurse. She's the reason that girl lived. And it was all part of the gang initiation. He was 15. And the guy that had him, of course I believe this is justice, the guy that had him do that to that girl pulled off a home invasion about a year later and was shot and killed in the doorway of justice. But it's violent. It's very, very violent. So
Texting will really get us. Like, we're coming out of school.
nobody pays it. Everybody's got their phone in their hand. No.
But that's what they're looking for. They're looking for me, old,
You've got to pay attention.
small women.
If you have your children with you, keep them close to you, but you have to pay attention. There's no need from the time you come out of that store, especially in the dark, to have your cell phone to your head or be texting. These people look for it. And damn, it is getting worse.
Wait till you get far. I mean, all the ladies, we've got several of the people in jail that were knocking those old ladies down and taking their purse. And I mean, they were hitting them. I mean, these ladies were like in their 80s. And these people, one was 18 and I think one was 20.
Even if you're not weak, if you make yourself look weak, you're a target.
And one more thing, if you're at home, just a simple little thing you may have never thought of. If you're in your bed and you hear something or you don't feel right, or you think somebody's trying to break in, hit that bar. Can you scare them away? Most of the time, if you can scare them away, try to do that so you don't have to engage in these moves or fighting or anything because, I mean, it's stressful, but
And nobody wants to fight. Nobody.
the violence will fall with violence. So,
It sounds so horrible. It's the truth. It's a harsh reality.
does anybody have anything else? That's all we have. I'll give you my cell phone number. My name is Jennifer Wyatt. It's 434. 434-713-1012. I would love to do that because, like y'all said, it's really nowhere around here. It might be somewhere in Greensboro. Can you say a number again?
That's right. I think that would be awesome. I really used to do it. He said it was his friend Billy Cheney. I don't know if y'all know him. Might know his wife Trish. Oh yes, ma'am. 434-713-1012. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I used to see driver's ed, so a lot of things here.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, when we had a race for this, it was Christmas time in Durham, over at South Point. What people would do, they would have a van where you go, park like five spots. They would watch women come to their cars, they would get out there and roll to start, get under the car, and under the middle of the car, where if you went off that, you couldn't see the line. And when they would get, and most of them didn't have the keys, or keys in their line, most of them did not. They would use a box cutter and cut their ankles, and you're gonna drop everything, and would start screaming. And then they would get everything that she had, and you know, it took Durham about 10 days to get that thing exactly right, because they couldn't figure out how quickly the thing got and this and that, so they just had to stay all over the section. You know, you go shopping, cops were everywhere, and you know, that's frightening. Yeah, you go out and say, cops are everywhere. You got to read, and we're going to be gone. Yes, you know what I'm saying? That's right. But that's what they were doing, and it was like 10 of them. And they would just take the box cutter, just roll over as soon as you got there, and you put your gifts in. A lot of them was their birthday. Oh, but then different keys. Now that time, they cut their, one of them blessed it. They cut her so deep, they had already, she blessed her death before she got there.
They were getting this, they weren't paying attention to their surroundings, they had their hands full.
You did not look, not have that key in your hand. That's always a key in your hand already.
Oh, yeah, whether you use it as a weapon or whether you get to that car and oh, and one more thing I thought about, I don't think we mentioned this. If somebody goes to grab you, we didn't do it because we didn't scare people bring this thing. But if somebody grabs you and they go to pick you up, they take you to their vehicle, drop all your body weight, go dead weight, and make them have to drag you or pick you up off the ground. Just do whatever you have to do to make yourself harder, you know, to get. And hopefully, you know, somebody would here and help you. Or you can use any of those moves. Once you're down on the ground, just start kicking. Just kick in the face, groin, anywhere. Just kick as hard as you can. Fight for your life and never give